Welcome, TEI family, to another episode of The Everyday Investor. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This person is a world renowned speaker, an author, and an inventor of Swiggies, the water bottle. Please help me welcome Julie Austin.
Thank you so much for having me.
How's it going, Julie?
Fantastic.
I'm excited, and again, just with it being on a Friday here, just kind of hearing that positive energy that you're going giving off here. I'm excited to talk to you about kind of your journey here, and I think it's going to provide a lot of good information for the audience. So I just kind of getting off into it. I always kind of like to get the background of you as an inventor, as a speaker, as an author. Because a lot of times that where you are today, it was almost 180 degrees, kind of maybe from where you started. So, what before you became this world-renowned speaker and inventor, what was life as Julie like growing up?
Oh, growing up? Well, I think we were talking before about I grew up pretty poor. So I was always trying to be more creative and finding ways around things that, because I didn't have the money.
Right.
I would have to find different ways of doing things. And when I was a kid, I invented something, and I had no money to do it. I had no mentors, anyone to help me. And I eventually somebody else came up with the idea and made a lot of money on it. And I said, that's never, ever going to happen again. If I ever come up with another idea, I'm going to find any way possible to do it. And that's exactly what I did.
Right. And was that the chapstick story? Because as I was doing my research beforehand, I was when you were telling that story, I thought it was interesting because as a patent attorney, I again just growing up in humble means as well. One of my clients previously he we helped him get a patent on a water slide, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I know, man, growing up we kind of had to I've seen this before. I mean, it wasn't maybe committed to paper or whatnot, but it seems like that ideal, or it seems like I've seen before, but maybe, like I said, nobody never committed it to paper. And he went on and obviously got a patent on it and made and is making a lot of money off of it. So it is one of those things where you like, okay, you create something and you never do anything with it, and you look back and someone else has capitalized.
Oh, I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me every day and say, wow, that's a great idea. I wish I'd thought of it. And I said, you could have.
Yeah.
Anybody could have.
And as an attorney, if I had $1 for every time somebody came up to me and said I have an idea, I would be a millionaire at this point in time. but it's a good lesson for those people who do say they have ideas. Say, hey, just not shelve your idea. Let's really take some steps to try to get it to market, if you will.
Right. You have to act on it.
Right. I like that. Yep. You have to act on it. So then coming up, where you always, I know you said you invented like that first invention there or idea that you had growing up. Were you always kind of stayed on that like innovator path, or as you got older and start to become an adult, did you kind of do something else before kind of being what you are today?
Very good question. So that was when I was a kid when I came up with that idea, and then years went by and I literally just didn't have any other ideas for inventions, and sort of dropped it and went on to become an actor. Moved to New York City, and went and took a different path, and then moved to LA, and I was visiting my dad in Texas, and I was out running in the heat, and I passed out from dehydration. And that's when I said, there's got to be a better way to carry water hands free on the body. And I'm sure somebody's come up with this idea. And I did a ton of research. You know how that is. You got to do your research to see if anyone's done the idea before. And no one had. So I got a patent on it. And that was before provisional patents. So it was hard. It was, it was, of course, the patent office turned it down the first time, and I had to, submit it again. But eventually, I did get the patent on it, and at that point, I didn't. This was years ago.
Yep.
I had no idea how to, manufacture a product. I just was sort of winging it, and use common sense to get a mold made for the product and figure out how to do the packaging. And I did everything myself. So it was a daunting task, but looking back, I would say, like you were saying earlier, learn from other people's mistakes. I made a million of them.
So no, and that's interesting. So you have, so I maybe two things here, and maybe talking to others. Would you suggest like others maybe having it a little bit more buttoned up as opposed to maybe, I guess, winging it or saying, okay, I'm gonna get a patent on it, but I kind of really don't have a plan in terms of how I'm going to, look to monetize off this. But more of let's have a plan before even getting to the step of submitting or filing a patent application.
You know what I would suggest doing, and you're the expert on this, but as an inventor, before you contact someone like you, a patent attorney, I would do some homework myself and just find out if there's anything like it out there. You can Google it. You can actually go in through the patent office now and see. You can't find everything, but you can pretty much figure out, does this product exist? And then if it doesn't, then it's, I think, at the point of contacting someone like you. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, and I also think, like you said, you seems like you came up in a different day and age where you had to file a non-provisional. Well, it's called a non-provisional application, where you have to be ready to go from an examination standpoint right then and there. Whereas now, I think you had hinted at, now you have a provisional application, which is very inexpensive, and you can file that, and that gives you this year grace period to kind of figure things out more, whether it's funding or kind of looking at the market and seeing if this thing is going to catch on before you have to spend a lot more money going through maybe the patent process, as well as trying to manufacture and things like that.
Yeah, I wish it existed when I first started, but and also here's an interesting thing. I got a design patent, and everyone had told me that a design patent was worthless after I'd already spent thousands of dollars to get it. But that, in my case, was not true at all, because the fact that I got a design patent meant that years later, I was able to get a registered trade dress on the product. And you can explain more in detail what that is. That has proven to be much more valuable than my patent ever was.
Right, and that was interesting as I was kind of finding out that, because typically, just as a patent attorney, you wouldn't suggest that or recommend to a client. Now, obviously, when you're talking about trade dress, that's it's a subset of trademark, so it's extremely valuable in that, as you know, it lasts forever as long as you're using
Yeah.
it. Whereas a patent, whether it's a design patent, it only lasts 15 years. If it's a utility patent, it lasts 20 years. So it does have this expiration dates on the patents, as opposed to a trade dress, which lasts forever. But so I guess going back to the original patent that you said you had, did you maybe eventually, I know you said you were figuring things out, did that just eventually expire, or did you, like, how did it expire after the 20 years, or did you let that go early? How did you kind of use that?
Good question. Yes, it eventually did expire, and I got a patent agent, a wonderful patent agent. He's not an attorney. He's the one who suggested that we file for the registered trade dress. And he was like a dog with a bone. He was like, he was not going to stop until we got it. And everybody told him, you'll never get it. Give it up, forget it. And that just, lit a fire under him. So between the two of us, based on, a lot of things that I had done through the years, and his expertise in getting it, we were able to secure the trade dress. And like you said, it's good forever.
Right.
So not only that, it's uncontestable in court. So, you have to go through different steps to get that uncontestable status, but that is as good of an intellectual property as I could possibly ever get. And now I'm at the point where I want to license it. And now it's really, really valuable to a company like Disney or Mattel or whoever, because of that.
No, absolutely. No, you make a great point with that. And yeah, no, for sure. And then it seems like with you having maybe done some stuff over the years with the Swiggies, the rich water bottle, it helped out when it was time to file for a trade dress registration. So it seems like that your efforts over the years, when it was time to file for that trade dress, it all paid dividends at that point, as opposed to maybe trying to file for a trade dress at the very beginning, which it seems like maybe would have been a little bit more tougher to try to secure.
Right.
So then with the design pattern, because I know, like you said, I agree with you, especially with the design pattern. When people try to say it's not useful, I think it's very useful, especially as you are selling things on Amazon or whatever the case may be. It's easy, or maybe even in court where it's easier to maybe put forth that design pattern, as well as to try to get an infringer or whatnot to stop, as opposed to trying to kind of maybe go from the utility pattern, that angle. So I guess with the design pattern, has both the utility and the design pattern, has those since expired, and then so the only thing you have now is that trade dress, which is still some very good protection.
Oh, it's excellent protection. I've called up people or shown up on their doorstep at a company and said, "Look, this is my product. You need to take it off the website." And I'm here. Oh, well, we don't know, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, look, I'm going to have my patent examining agent at the patent office contact you. And it's gone within a couple of hours.
Really?
Yeah. And I've had to, every single inventor will have to go through the counterfeiting, infringing, stuff that it just happens to everybody. I went to the patent office once. They had an exhibit about counterfeiting, and I was shocked to see, big companies. It happens to them. It happens to little inventors. It happens to everybody. Once you're successful, it will be counterfeited.
No, absolutely, and I say that's almost a badge of honor once it's counterfeited, or someone attempts to try to counterfeit it, because you have something in that is selling, because you're not going to try to counterfeit or try to reproduce something that's not working, that's not selling. So that's when you have something that's selling, and someone tries to counterfeit it, then okay, I have something here. So with the patents and the trade dress, do you try to come at it from a trade dress to maybe scare them off, or tell them to stop? Or back when you had your patents active, did you try to come at it from that angle? How did you, from a strategic standpoint, how did you kind of play that, since you had two different forms of intellectual property, or three different forms between a design patent, utility patent, and this trade dress?
Well, I think that the registered trade dress has provided much more protection. I've been able to, and you can explain, more about why you have to, how different it is to protect and defend a regular patent as opposed to a trademark. But I've found it much easier to defend against, since I've gotten the registered trade dress, which is the trademark.
Right. No, exactly. And exactly. So with the utility patent, just, for the audience, that you're looking at the claims. So the claims are going to define the scope of protection. So when you're looking at a utility patent, the claim section of the application is the most important, because you're looking at that, you're comparing it to maybe a competing product to see, does this product infringe? Now, kind of moving on to the design patent, is looking at the ornamental feature of it, and to be honest, the trade dress and the design patent are similar in terms of kind of the process a little bit, protecting the visual appearance, the non-functionality of it. But again, I with the trade dress, that's a little bit more strict when it's time to examine it, because it doesn't expire as long as you're using it. So this thing lasts forever. So they're really looking at that a lot more strict in terms of non-functionality. It has to be, again, it's a subset of trademarks, so it has to be used in commerce. Whereas design patent, you don't have to be making it or selling it, and you can still get a patent on it. Whereas a trade dress, it has to be used in commerce. So it's a few other elements that you have to satisfy, which it seems like you satisfied all those. And yeah, you have something that's extremely valuable and that lasts forever as long as you're using it, which is that's the way to go. And I think that's interesting. As I was, again, reading up on this and doing some research, I'm like, oh, that's something that every intellectual property attorney maybe should at least think about doing with their clients for some of these products, especially as they maybe have it over the years and the patents are starting to expire, to look at maybe trying to capture or get a trade dress registration to essentially extend their protection on their product, especially if it's valuable. So I thought that was interesting and something that I'm kind of taking a harder look at myself.
Well, what you said about using it in commerce, because I'm also a publicist, I've had it in the news, every week, every month for years and years and years.
Yep, exactly.
So that was also very, very valuable. I've never ever paid for ads. So it was I guess I don't even know what the word is, but I mean, so I didn't pay for that exposure. It was something that was either like on the news or in a magazine or something, and it was there because of the value of the product and not just because I paid for it.
Right. And I think that's a big point. And I think all of that goes into being able to get that trade dress registration, because again,
yes, it is.
That was very important. So I guess along that same theme, how did you get to the point? Because again, a lot of people try to get that advertising or that marketing, and a lot of times you end up paying for it. But again, just kind of going through your ABC News, NBC News, the Queen Latifah show, What a Great Idea, CBS News. You're on some pretty big platforms explaining and showing off your product. How did that come to be? How did you do that, especially on your own, as opposed to paying money for these different opportunities?
Well, in the very beginning, I hired the biggest publicist in town that I could find, and it was really expensive. And they got me one little mention in a magazine and one little mention in a newspaper, and that's it. And I said, okay, look, I cannot keep paying that kind of money for for not getting anything. And I literally had to learn on my own how to be a publicist. And I spent the time. You can say whatever you want about libraries, but I went into the library and I learned how to be a publicist. And things that you can't just Google. So I know today everybody's like, oh, just Google it. No, I went in and did detailed research in a library and learned how to be a publicist, and then started getting hired by a lot of big companies to work in PR for them because of what I was doing for myself. So if you look at Swiggies.com and you go to the media page, almost every single thing on there is what I've done. So I got it on the Today Show twice. The PR firm couldn't even get that for me. I got it on my own.
Wow. No, that's interesting. So I guess, how do you maybe reconcile that? Because on one end, you have this product, you have this business that you are selling and continuously getting out there. But then on the other end, you're doing this PR role, which could be a separate role and can take away, take time away from the actual business part of it in terms of trying to kind of run the day-to-day operations of the business with trying to sell the product. So I guess how did you maybe balance that? Because it seemed like, again, that PR role, it took a lot of time to not only get the information, but maybe to try to, get it in these different onto these different platforms.
It's called not getting any sleep. I worked 24/7.
Yeah.
Literally, I was multitasking all the time. I was in my living room putting together, product and and putting them in the packages with a glue gun.
Wow.
um, to get things ready for an order, to ship an order out, as I'm literally in the background doing a radio show. I mean, I was multitasking like crazy. But the good thing is I learned every single angle of running a business and promoting it and distributing, and I learned how to do everything.
No, and it seems like you had got a lot of good experience with all facets of the business that, again, you were responsible for and had to perform.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I couldn't at that time, I couldn't hire anyone. Eventually, once I got started, and by the way, call it kind of pyramiding up. So I started with a little bit of inventory. I sold that, made the money, got more inventory, and just kept doing it because I literally started with $5 and a clay prototype. That's
Mm.
it. And I just had to, work 2 and 3 jobs on the side, make a little money, get more inventory, just keep going and keep going. And then it finally got to a tipping point where I had to start hiring people. And I was hiring, salespeople to help me out, and eventually got to 3 employees, which I don't know. It seems like a lot to me. In the scheme of things, that's not. But to be responsible for the salaries of 3 people
Yep.
and running the business, it got to be, quite a lot. But I was selling like crazy, and it's interesting because all business owners, once you get to that tipping point, that's when it gets a little tougher when you're running everything. Yes, it's your time and your energy, but then once you start hiring people and have to pay salaries, suddenly in a different, on a different level.
No, and I was going to say I would imagine that because, every dollar has to pretty much be accounted for. You're not trying to. And there's one thing if you're doing it all, but once you start, paying other people to do it, and that's, real money and salaries that have to be accounted for. You're trying to make sure that, hey, the person, whatever the job function that these people are doing, it makes sense and is worthwhile. But also it becomes again a lot more. Hey, every dollar, every penny has to be accounted for. Almost, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And I also always made sure that it was salary plus commission. So I wanted people to be able to make as much money as they wanted to, but I also paid them a salary. So it wasn't a lot of money for a salary, but the incentive on the back end was, here's a product that nobody else can sell, that is brand new, and I had the best employees ever.
Now I was going to say, did you feel like that maybe combination of a salary and a commission seemed to work the best with the employees?
I think so because you could do just commission only, but it's tough to get people to work for that.
Yeah.
I've done it myself, worked commission only jobs, but I wanted to treat them as well as possible, given what I had, because I was just like a one person show with one product and bootstrapping it. But I wanted to give them that ability on the back end. And also, I was very, I had them involved in the business. So they were helping me, make decisions about colors and packaging and marketing strategies, and they felt like they were really part of the business. And so I mean, not all inventors have to manufacture and distribute their own products. You can license it. I did have a licensing deal in the very, very beginning, and we got all the way to the end, and we were getting ready to launch it. It was in catalogs, it was ready to go. And one of the companies filed bankruptcy.
Really?
So that is actually why I became a manufacturer. Instead of just looking for another licensing deal, I just said, okay, I want to get on with this, and did it myself.
But and it seems like after a number of years, you maybe came back around to start, looking to provide licensing opportunities at this point. After so many years, I guess maybe like two questions. Maybe number one, what was it, just a success, or what made you maybe come back around years later to say, okay, now I'm allowing licensing opportunities after that initial opportunity didn't work out?
At this point, I was working as a motivational speaker, speaking on innovation, and really busy with that. Also, at the same time, I got the registered trade dress. So that came through. And as soon as it did, I realized I've got something very valuable, and I need to look to licensing because I'm working as a speaker, and it just seemed like the right time to do it.
Got it. Got it. Now that makes sense. So, I mean, and I guess the second part that I wanted to ask, so because you were saying that you had moved forward with the manufacturing, can you maybe talk a little bit about that process or that experience that you had as you started out, manufacturing this thing and kind of going through that process?
In the very, very beginning, I had no idea about manufacturing. I went to a trade show, which is what I would suggest. This was a good way to do it. I went to a trade show and I looked at all of the products that were not similar, but had, like, mine is a plastic item. So I looked at companies at the trade show that had those kind of products. And then I just asked them, who's your manufacturer? Looks like your product is good quality. Do you trust them? Where's it manufactured? And I found someone in Malaysia, and that's where I started. And I was a little crazy. I started off with 50,000 units.
Really?
50,000.
What made you go all in like that?
I just was, I had the money from, bootstrapping it and getting it to a certain point. So I said, okay, let me go all out. And I just handed over an enormous amount of money to a manufacturer in a foreign country that I didn't know.
Right.
Just said, I hope, I hope this works. And got the shipment in LA in the port, and had to rent a gigantic truck to drive from the port to a warehouse where I stored it, got it all in the warehouse. And then I went, oh, that's great. Now what am I going to do? So this is one of those mistakes I would say, don't do what I did. Because that was crazy. But it lit a fire under me to just, okay, I got to sell them. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put them in my car. I'm going to drive cross country. I'm going to do the news in every big city across the country. And that's what I did.
So, and did you end up selling all 50,000 at some point?
At some point. I'm not going to say how long it took me.
Right.
Yeah, I would not do anything crazy like that again, but I was just throwing things out and not knowing what I was doing. And I looked into some really great accounts just because I had no fear. I was too dumb, naive to have any fear. I walked into 7-Eleven, got an account there. I got an account at one of the, a big sporting goods chain, a big drugstore chain. I literally just put them in a point of purchase display and walked in and said, "Here's what I got. What do you think?"
Really?
Didn't even call to get an appointment. I just
Wow.
showed up.
Wow. And that's actually, I think, a good point. Because you have, like you said, you have to have this fearlessness when you're doing this, obviously, as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, to do this, to sell your product. And I guess, how do you balance that between, because again, it's things that maybe you should know so that you can avoid some pitfalls, but it seems like on the other end, you can't kind of get bogged down with maybe all this information, or just everybody telling you can't do that, you can't do it that way, and now you're maybe that's kind of not adding to your fearlessness. So I guess, how do you balance that?
Well, I can tell you, this probably happens to all inventors, is that people will tell you, "Oh, you can't do that," or "Why don't you just give up?" Because it is a kind of a daunting task, and you're all alone, and you've got a great idea and a great product, but getting it out there is a Herculean task.
Right.
When you don't have money and you're not a big corporation. And so, yeah, everybody is going to tell you you can't do things. And if you listen to them, you won't do it. You'll get involved in, in analyzing it. And that's what I did not do. I didn't analyze anything. I just hauled off and did things, and some worked and some didn't. But it got me much closer every year. And then, by the way, I have actually made, for most of those years, I made a decent living with the product. It may not have been a great living sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes I made a lot of money. Sometimes I didn't. But I still, there are people out there that are inventors who I meet at trade shows, who travel around and just do trade shows, and they make a decent living.
Mm.
So there are people out there making money with products that you've never even heard of. Like, especially in the promotional market, I've met some people who have products. You've never heard of the products. They make a fortune, but they're under the radar, and they just sell in the promotional market.
Why do you think that is? Do you think they maybe have no desire to maybe have to go through it, trying to sell it on a mainstream or on a big stage, or they maybe enjoy being maybe under the radar, or kind of less work, just having to go to trade shows as opposed to having to do all this other stuff to try to sell the product?
Yeah, I think that everybody says, "Oh, get it into Walmart," or and that would be the wrong thing to do in off the right off the bat. First of all, because you're going to have to be the bank, and you're going to have to finance the inventory for, I don't know the exact amount of time. I want to say maybe it's 90 days, but so if you are not well funded, you don't want to go that big that fast, with your product. You just, and somebody a long time ago said, "Well, why don't you get on Oprah?" And I said, "Because I don't have enough inventory." And if people are calling me, I can't fill the orders. So, see, there's another issue. It's like, if you become too successful too fast, then what do? Then you have to start borrowing, or factoring the inventory. It gets into a different level. So I would honestly say that just doing it kind of the way I did it in the beginning, which is going to mom and pop stores, and I had some great mom and pop stores that ordered from me for years. They place an order, you get paid up front, you do the promotional market, and you just, and doing it that way, I've never lost money.
Hmm. Got it. So, and then how do you maybe reconcile that with just the e-commerce and maybe selling things online? You have the Amazon, you have these different platforms now where you can take advantage of. I guess how do you factor that in or weigh that or maybe reconcile that with maybe going to the mom and pop stores and as you're in the beginning trying to get the product really off the ground?
Oh no, you can sell on Amazon, and you should. That's also still a very it's a smaller way to do it.
Got it.
I would absolutely suggest selling online because there's so much that you can do through social media, and that's free to get your product out there and to make money without having to go to the big chains first.
No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So now is my understanding that today you're selling in 25 countries, manufacturing in 3 countries. I guess how did you get maybe to this point as it relates to, okay, we're not just selling here in the US, but just kind of being in the US? How are you making those connections with other countries or people in other countries to to start selling the product in those countries as well?
Well, honestly, most of what I have sold is in other countries
Really?
through the years. Yep. I mean, I because I'm have such a presence online, people will find me, and someone in Guatemala says, "Hey, we sell to all of the school system. Can we place a big order for the school system?" And I also, have had manufacturing in Argentina. I was not able to bring them in as an import. So I literally had to send a mold to my distributor there so that she could manufacture, and then she will sell in different countries. And we have a licensing deal. So you can work this any way you want.
Right.
And I have.
Nice, nice. No, it seems like you definitely have worked it a number of ways, and it seems like again, just putting yourself out there, and a lot of the things that you learned early on with the PR has benefited you, especially as it relates to making those connections, or people being able to find you online, and you being able to make those connections that way.
Yeah, yeah, and the PR. I've also done TV shows in other countries and magazines in other countries, and that helps too.
Nice, nice, nice. So then I guess maybe switching gears here a little bit. I guess the first question is, do you have anything else from a product standpoint that you maybe can talk about? I mean, obviously, I understand that if it's still in R&D phase or whatnot, you can't disclose it, from a protection standpoint. But is there anything else at this point that you're maybe excited about looking to come out with that you can discuss that's on the horizon?
Well, I do have other ideas. I've gotten so involved in the speaking industry and teaching companies how to be more innovative and create more intellectual property that I haven't put the time into developing the other products. I think at this point I would like to partner with someone so I don't have to do all of the work myself. And as far as getting patents on these, some of them are patentable, some are not. But that's a good question. I think inventors have to invent, and we're just constantly coming up with ideas. It's the implementation of those ideas that you have to spend the time and the money to get them off the ground. So they're there. They're sort of in the background, and nobody's come up with them yet. But that's the danger of not doing it, like
Right.
what happened when I was a kid.
Yep.
If you don't act on it, eventually someone somewhere will come up with the same idea.
And that's a great point. And this also kind of leads me to another question because at least at this point in time, it seems like you have more or less done everything yourself as far as kind of being responsible for a lot, as opposed to maybe bringing on a different partner or whatnot. I guess how do you or what do you prefer as far as, hey, just do everything yourself, at least at the beginning, as opposed to maybe, okay, let me partner with somebody. I know I interviewed this one their team. The one guy, he was an engineer, and the other guy, he kind of had a background in marketing and advertising, and they kind of came together collectively and have invented a couple cool different products. But that's kind of how they're kind of yin and yang in their teamwork that seems to work for them. So I guess, how do you kind of differentiate that, or again maybe reconcile it from maybe your way, where it's almost like, hey, I'm the kind of the solo inventor, and I'm going to kind of do things my way, and just not alone, but without any other partners or whatnot.
Oh, I think what you just said is brilliant because the engineer and the marketing person, that's two totally different skill sets. I don't have the engineering background, I have the marketing background. And so I had to hire engineers. So if you can partner with someone like that, oh, I think that's a fantastic way to do it.
And I actually like something that you said there, and I definitely agree with that. But this is not, you don't have to have an engineering background. Again, you have a marketing background, and you have kind of invented these, this product, and continue to invent different things. So it's not like just because you have one background or one skill set that you can't be an inventor or innovator. This is for everybody to participate in, regardless of your background.
Absolutely. And I speak to a lot of engineers and scientists. I did the event for Procter and Gamble's International Engineering Summit. I was the keynote speaker, and so I'm in a room with 1,000 engineers who could, I love speaking to scientists and engineers because they get it.
Right.
They get it. They already are in that position to come up with ideas and to get them off the ground. The marketing side is just a totally different hat, you know. So I love talking to those people because they know, they speak my language.
Right,
I guess.
right. What made you, and I was gonna ask this earlier, but what made you maybe not pivot, but start to, okay, I want to maybe get this message out there from a speaking, from being an author. What made you kind of add that into the fold, as opposed to just kind of focusing on the inventive or the innovative portion of it? Because it seems like you have done a number of speaking engagements as a world-renowned speaker, as well as author of a number of different books. So I guess, what kind of gave you kind of that passion to start kind of doing more of that?
The downturn of 2008.
Yeah, hey, that'll do it. That will do it.
That will do it. When you have to pivot, and I hate that word, but when you have to pivot, you just go, okay, well, I have a background as an actor and a TV host. Okay, I can speak. I like to perform. I have all of these years of valuable information about innovation, and just me going through the process and learning everything. So let me put all that together, and that's what happened. So and it happened exactly the same time that I was being counterfeited. So it was a double whammy that happened to me.
Ah, okay. No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Oh, well, man, it's yeah. Sometimes you have to, but that's, I guess, the maybe almost the definition of that entrepreneur is kind of being able to figure it out as you go, because it's not going to be this kind of steady trajectory of up, 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 up. It's going to be ebbs and flows of the business, and just being able to kind of figure it out and do what you need to do to continue to kind of be at the forefront and be relevant. I think that's just very paramount or imperative for an entrepreneur or an innovator.
Yeah, you just have to. I'm a big believer in getting out there, just doing it, trial and error, and learning, because I think it's the best way to learn is just do it. Just get out there and do it.
I like that. I really like that. And I guess, before, as kind of we wrap up, I want to be respectful of your time. Again, we talked a little bit earlier about, and I think I maybe seen this in a prior interview of yours, where you talked about 4% of women are patent owners. What do you think we need to do to get more involvement from maybe minority groups as well as women to kind of participate in this process?
Well, the 4% is single patent holders that are women. I
Oh, okay.
think I don't know the exact number. I believe it's around 15% of women that are patent holders that share a patent with someone else, with a man. But the 4%, I believe, is a woman single name on a patent. But I think here's what I've learned in speaking to groups about this topic is that women are not encouraged to
Mm,
invent. And I happen to have a dad who had that inventor brain. He would never have followed through all the way to getting something on the market, but he had that way of thinking. So my parents just never discouraged me. They said, you do whatever you want to do. And I told them I'm not going to college. I want to be an inventor. I want to be an entrepreneur. And so they encourage that. And I think the women are not encouraged to invent. They're just not. And we need to change that. And I try as much as I can, and I know you're trying to do that, is to encourage people, show people success stories of people who have done it and how to do it without making all the mistakes we made. And that's what you're doing with the show.
absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a big part of the show. And again, I applaud you for kind of how you decided to do things, because I think that maybe college isn't for everyone, and as opposed to trying to force yourself along that path, which is going to a lot of times end up in a lot of student debt and maybe not a good paying job or not as good of a paying job. It can be a lot more valuable, especially in the long run, to say, okay, I'm gonna focus all my energy and efforts, maybe after high school or whatnot, on trying to figure out this business part of it and just innovation. And I think that should be more of a choice for people, as opposed to, I guess, being forced or pushed into like just the traditional means such as college and whatnot.
Well, I think you picked a good uh, career, and you have a degree, but I think you're using it in a good way, um, because it's a necessary. Um, uh, you know, we need patent attorneys.
Right.
We can't. I don't know if we can do it without them. I'm not sure, but I mean, I definitely could not have ever done what I've done without patent agents and patent attorneys. I just couldn't have done it.
No, no, for sure. I think that's a good point, especially coming into it. It can be a very overwhelming process, and just having those patent agents and attorneys, uh, I guess as a resource, especially at the beginning, to help you through the process, is it can be valuable. And again, I think even as a patent attorney, is things that I do on a day-to-day basis where I'm like, this can be done better, or I'm kind of irritated the way I have to kind of maybe some it's something that you do throughout the day that maybe it's not as enjoyable, or you feel like it can be done better, or can be maybe designed better. So I always say that's a start for people trying to get become innovators, or or get off into this space, to maybe look at better ways to kind of do things, just starting out from a day-to-day basis that they encounter. And like I said, use that as a springboard to say, okay, I'm a kind of further develop this ideal or whatnot, and maybe and take to an attorney or agent, and kind of see where this leads me. So I always say that's a good place to start it. And again, even as a patent attorney, I still have those aha moments or those ideals as I'm going through my day-to-day process. So I don't know. I think it maybe has enhanced me, because I kind of know what I'm looking for, at least as it relates to the patent side of things. And it's always good for me. And I mean, I learned something from talking to innovators like you, where, okay, from the business standpoint, it just kind of things to be on the lookout for, just kind of learning to kind of know how to navigate those waters as well.
Yeah, I think it's up to us as inventors to get out and encourage people to invent. I just think that we I don't want to say it's a responsibility. I'm just saying that we can take what we know and what we've learned, and I am very willing to share with anyone my journey and what I've learned, and how they can skip all of the mistakes and do it better and make money. And I'm willing to do that for anybody.
Nice. No, that's yeah, that's and like you said, that's I think what it's going to take to kind of have more inventors, especially when you're talking about the minority groups, women, things like that. So I guess I have maybe two final questions for you. I know you talked about selling in different countries, and obviously having a trade dress or patents here in the US, that's one thing. How do you go about protecting maybe the knockoffs and things like that in those particular countries? Do you maybe get patents, or is trade dress available in those countries? How do you go about that? I would imagine that that has to be something that you think about to try to protect it from other people trying to knock it off in other different countries outside the US.
Yeah, I think that you can't police everything. So, if someone wants to sell these on a street corner in Shanghai, there's nothing I can do. But
Right, right.
the internet is a different story. Now that I can get them knocked off. And I would say just start with, Alibaba, Amazon, and eBay. If you can keep them off of those and the big ones, you're way, way ahead of the game. And eventually people once you start hitting them in the wallet and you start cutting them off, they're just going to drop off because it's all about money. So if I get them off the internet, I get them out of the game, they're probably, I mean, they could go sell somewhere and I don't know about it. It's just that the internet is where it's at. So that you need to police constantly.
Got it, got it. And do you maybe with the help of your patent agent look at those particular countries to try to protect, I guess, get protection on the invention or the product such that you can police it on the internet at the very least?
Well, I think what you need to do is just because it's overwhelmingly expensive to patent in every country.
Absolutely.
But you can pick and choose which ones that you want to get that protection in.
Nice, nice. And I would definitely agree with that. Then also maybe the manufacturing. I was maybe interviewing a guest a few days ago, and she the snapping screw is her invention, and she has it manufactured in China, and she sells it, all over the world and countries, different countries in Europe. And I guess she was maybe having some issues with some duplicates in Europe, but did. I think she did have a patent at one point, which I think she said it cost like $50,000. Again, going to the
Yep.
point of uh,
Yep.
the money that you can spend in these different countries. But she said, looking back on it, she would have just did it, and she did again through the advice of her patent agent, because I think she had a patent agent as well, and she wasn't going to get it protected in China, but the patent agent kept saying, "Hey, no, you need to do it. You need to do it," and she listened. So again, I guess we do provide value of some sort, and she by her protecting it in China, she said she would have never got the protection in Europe because even if somebody wanted to manufacture it and try to sell it in Europe, they couldn't have competed with the price that she was getting it manufactured for in China. So she would have still been able to undercut their prices in Europe's, for example, and kind of go about it that way. So it does take some strategy involved when you're looking at, okay, what countries to protect it in and how to go about that protection. And that's where, just kind of being able to sit down and talk to your agent, patent agent, or patent attorney can help out with that.
Right, right.
So then I guess just maybe my last question as we wrap up here. Do you have any advice or just any words of wisdom to give to maybe someone who's looking to try to get into this innovation game?
As far as being an inventor,
Right, right, exactly. Maybe just yeah, just some words of wisdom. Some maybe this is something that you maybe talk as you're talking to different groups when you're speaking, that something that you always kind of leave the audience with to hopefully maybe encourage them to, hey, innovate, and yeah, just to innovate and just encourage them to innovate and kind of not worry about I guess just uh maybe the failure or kind of not doing, or I don't know, just something that maybe encourages the audience to, hey, just go after it.
well, creativity is a muscle. You use it or lose it. I encourage people to be creative every day. and learn how to problem solve every day. And in the course of a day, I guarantee you, everybody has said, boy, I wish they had a solution for whatever, right? So look for solutions to problems, um, and just constantly use that creativity to figure out how to solve them. And once you get into, it's just a system of learning how to problem solve, because inventors, the name of my speech is brainstreaming, how to think like an inventor to generate breakthrough ideas. And you if you want to think like an inventor, you're always looking for solutions to problems, how to do something better, how to solve this problem, and just get in the habit of doing it. And eventually you will come up with a really great idea that you can run with.
I like that. I like that, and I definitely agree with that. And I see it, and I'm sure you see it all the time with you know, typically when it's an inventor, they have invented something. It's almost like they keep going because they're continuously working out or exercising that innovation muscle, and it almost seems like they kind of can get it can get addicting at some point or after a while to continue to come up with different products. But I definitely agree with everything that you just said.
Well, yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, and then, believe in yourself, because a lot of times it's just going to be you, and everybody will say, "Give it up, you can't do it." And I heard it a million times. You'll never do it. It'll never be done. No, I'm gonna do it. So you got to believe in yourself.
And I definitely agree with that. You have to yeah, definitely have to, and that should be just really a general principle of life of, hey, believing in yourself regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, and don't let the doubters or the naysayers deter you or detract you from that whatever goal it is. So I definitely agree with that. So well, again, I thank you, Julie, for giving me some time here to talk through your journey. It has been an amazing journey, and I'm sure that the audience will get a ton out of the information and your experience that you provided. Again, I thank you again for the time, and I guess to y'all family. Until next time, see you later.